Thank you, Madam President. I wish to greet our fellow colleagues this morning, and since I suspect it will be our final sitting for the year, and as we approach the holiday season, I want to wish all of our colleagues, including you, Madam President, a safe and cheerful, joyful Christmas and holiday season. Madam President, as I stand to make a contribution on this motion, I wish first of all to establish something that is very important regarding the purpose for which this House or this Senate was constituted. By the mere construction or the layout of the membership, we have a government side, an independent side, and an opposition side. This suggests that one expects there to be debate, and sometimes we will agree, we will support with no hesitation, sometimes we will oppose vehemently, and sometimes we will support, but we will provide reasons why we have certain issues. And so, Madam President, before I actually state the position of the opposition on this bill, particularly mine, on this motion, I want to remind the House or the Senate, that we are not here as an opposition simply to oppose for opposing sake. This Honorable House comes to seek approval and support for this motion. And as a responsible opposition, we have to ensure that there is proper treatment given to any motion, as with this one or any, that is brought to the House. And there must be room for thorough debate. That's why we call it a debate. And proper examination of the contents of the motion, and thereby giving us an opportunity as a Senate to debate and treat it as it should be. Madam President, we are not supposed to be merely cheerleaders of any tune that the government plays. And so we have to this morning present our views on some of the reservations we may have regarding this motion, and thereby hopefully giving it proper treatment. Now, as anyone may look at this motion and examine it and see, no one can doubt that there may be good intent, particularly the way it's stated with regard to providing an opportunity for the vulnerable, for children, and the needy to benefit from the piece of legislation or the amendment that is being made. Now, as regards the timing of the exemption and how it may have affected elected parliamentarians, I don't think it is for me as a non-elected parliamentarian to try to grapple with this. And so, Madam President, I prefer instead to examine other aspects of the motion as presented. And so, I will first state, Madam President, that before we vote and say aye, and before the ayes have it, we need to ensure, Madam President, that this piece of legislation, this amendment, this exemption, actually benefits and reaches those that it was intended to benefit. And that is why we have to have a debate. Because, of course, we have seen before that the government has come to the Honorable House with very valuable pieces of legislation, well intended, but in its implementation, we have had to question whether the piece of legislation actually achieved the objectives that it was set out to achieve. And so, Madam President, when it comes to this piece of legislation, this motion before us this morning, I noted that the items, the list of items that were listed, and I wish not to go through the entire list, But the items listed suggest that they are meant for certain people. And so, since it has been placed in the hands of elected parliamentarians who are politicians, and of course, we have seen what has happened before with previous efforts during the COVID assistance period, I would like to suggest that we pay attention to the mechanisms that we may have to put in place to ensure that the process of getting these items and making sure that they reach the persons that they're supposed to reach works well. There's a common phrase, Madam President, that we must trust the process. And it's a management phrase you hear a lot in management. But we must ensure that there are mechanisms in place to make sure the process works. If we are to have total dependence on a politician or politicians, the 17 members of this lower house, to ensure that all deserving, needy constituents in all the 17 constituencies benefit as they should, I think that we have to examine this a little closer, not just for what it says in the House, but for the implications it may have for those it should benefit. Madam President, outside of the elected members, I am sure that we can agree that there are other persons and organizations that may wish to do likewise, and we have already embarked on this type of effort before. As a community person, I have been part of such organizations that have, during Christmas and other times during the year, sought to reach out and source resources to assist and to bring some cheer to children, the needy, and the vulnerable. And I believe that such a facility should also be made available to persons within the 17 constituencies, organizations within the constituencies who have a similar intention. So while I don't think you should deprive an elected parliamentarian from the opportunity to benefit, I believe that doing so exclusively to them, we may be falling short in the process. And so I say, Madam President, that just to ensure that there is equity and fairness, and that there is no suspicion that, as was heard in the previous debate, that some persons or some parliamentarians may feel that they are slighted or disadvantaged, that could be achieved if voluntary organizations, corporate citizens, and other groups and individuals within the 17 constituencies wish to do likewise. I don't think there's anything to lose if that happens. Madam President, I think also that when we do those, what I would consider, when these token gestures come to the House and we legislate them, we have to also look at the possibility of having a more comprehensive approach to it. From time to time, we will have to come to amend legislation. I understand that. But there are times that if we take a more comprehensive approach, we will not have to take or make those piecemeal and token gestures that can cause suspicion, lack of trust, and for persons to misinterpret the intent of the piece of legislation or the amendment. And I believe most of the discussion that has gone on, Madam President, regarding whether this will achieve its objective is because anytime something in this country, based on the patterns that we've seen before, particularly in the last 9 months, anytime any resource or anything is left in the hands of solely in the hands of politicians, particularly the elected politicians on this side of the House, many of us get very anxious, and there's always speculation and suspicion. And this is not just so, it is because there's reason for it. So, Madam President, I think as a country, we can do better. I think as a country, we should minimize any semblance of discrimination or perceived advantage and ensure that the discussion in the House, the wording of the legislation, and as I mentioned earlier, a comprehensive approach will not make or allow for all of this suspicion and lack of trust in the process that I mentioned before. So I hope that if this is to happen in the future, next Christmas, for example, that it will not solely be for elected parliamentarians, but it will also be extended to others within the country, groups and individuals who have a genuine intent to assist the vulnerable, the needy, and the less fortunate, and bring cheer. Madam President, it is not only politicians who can bring cheer to our children, to our vulnerable, to our needy. It is not only politicians who can do that, Madam President. As a matter of fact, the average St. Lucian will tell you that they don't even believe that the politicians do a good job. And so let us help the politicians by not just criticizing them, but by saying that what the politicians seek to do, especially the elected members, other factions of the constituency, other organizations with similar interests, other individuals can join in the process, and we can extend the same courtesy to them so that there's a more holistic approach to it. And then St. Lucians might trust the process a little more. With these few words, Madam President, I'd like to end on this motion. Thank you.